I did like Desperate Housewives, but there are many things that I would change. But before we go on, I'll say that one of my favorite things about Desperate Housewives was the fact that they got rid of many of the characters, rotated characters, had got rid of many of the main characters throughout the series, and I think that was very cool because it really disturbs the plot, which is the point. You want to make something very exciting and impactful and show that the consequences are severe. So that was great. Like for instance, season 8 where they got rid of Mike, season 7 with season 5 with Edie, and of course that was due to many other things that were happening outside of the plot as well. But they got many of the characters, many characters, both major and minor, didn't make it through the show. And I think that was a good thing because it makes it that much more exciting in terms of the sensation. So here's what I would have done differently. So I think that in season 1 and 2, I think I would have kept season 1 mostly the same, but actually I would have made Juanita Solis survive, and I think I would have had her wake up from the coma and then expose Gabby and John Rowland to Carlos. So I think I would have had given her that role. Moving on, I think I would have given Bongo the German Shepherd a more definitive ending, but I know they got rid of him because of budget constraints. But I would have just given had an episode dedicated to Bongo because he was a pretty cool dog. Let's see. I would have brought Kendra back in a future season. So Kendra Taylor, who showed up in season 1 twice, I would have probably brought her back in like season 8 or so. Um, and actually, I think Kendra could have maybe replaced Edie or maybe one of the other housewives. I would have probably um, done a few more changes with the main cast. So I think that would have been nice. Now, in season 2, I actually would have killed off Mike Delfino at the end. So when Orson Hodge runs over Mike, I would have had that be the end for Mike. And then in season 3, I would have kept it mostly the same, but the difference is there would be no Mike. And there would have been no Mike. And I probably would have kept Austin around because I didn't like how he had to leave and all that. So I would have kept Austin around, and Susan and Ian would have gotten married, and Orson's storyline would have been mostly the same as well. And actually, I would have. Huh, yeah, it's a little tricky with Orson, but yeah, I would have kept Orson in season 3 and season 4, but in season 4, I would have exposed Orson as the man who got rid of Mike, and then there would have been a conflict, and Orson would have run away, and his fate would have been left more ambiguous. And then in season 4, I also would have gotten rid of Bree. I would have killed off Bree Hodge. Maybe Orson would be the guilty one, and then so Bree's gone, and then I would have let the Catherine Mayfair storyline go the way it did, except I would have probably also killed off Adam Mayfair as well as Catherine. And then in season 5, I would have still done the time jump, except the difference would be that Actually, before we get to season 5, I would have just written Edie out of season 4. So season 4 would have been Edie's last season and she wouldn't have returned. And then in season 5, we would have what? Susan, um, Gabby, and what's her name? Lynette. They would still be around. Um, and then in season 5, I wouldn't have had Susan and Mike divorced because they broke up too many times, and that was just getting a little excessive. I think I would. Then obviously the season 5 plot would have to be very different because Dave wouldn't be in it. So maybe instead of Dave, I'd bring in a different character and just rework the plot. Now in season 6, I did like the plot with Julie and all of that, but obviously it would have to be a little different since Susan and Mike wouldn't have gotten remarried because they would never have been divorced in the first place. And I think I would have made Julie's attacker someone we've seen before. So, like, say Julie's attacker had been Felicia Tillman, or maybe we could have twisted it around a little bit and had it be Austin, or maybe it could have been Ian Hainsworth or someone. Season 7 would be mostly the same, but I think that's when I would have. Oh, that's a little tricky. Season 7. I think season 7 would have been mostly the same, but with obviously major tweaks since Bree wouldn't be in it anymore, and I think I would have gotten rid of Lynette in season 7, and so Tom and the kids would have moved away from Wisteria Lane. Now, then it would just be Susan, Gabby, Carlos, and Mike would have taken care of Alejandro Ramon. And then in season 8, I would have brought Kendra back and okay, with if I were doing it this way, I would have had to bring in some more main characters throughout as they get rid of the older ones. So yeah, I would have brought Kendra back, and instead of Orson Hodge being the main villain in season 8, I would have had it be maybe Gabby's mother, Luisa Marquez, I think her name was, or Ian Hainsworth, or even Milton Lang, but I think Luisa Marquez or Ian Hainsworth would have been the best candidates for villains, and I already talked about that in a previous video that I did on Orson Hodge's villain arc. Hmm. Yes. Oh, and I wouldn't have made Paul Young go back to jail in season 7. I would have had him walk away free. And yeah, I would have killed up Mike in season 2. Yeah, I guess it really works very differently because there are some things that I have switched in seasons, but then some things that work well with the storyline, and I may. So it depends on which season I would be tweaking. So really, maybe if I had tweaked season 2 the way I did, then Ian Hainsworth wouldn't be coming back in season 8 as a villain, and he would have stayed with Susan or whatever the case was. A lot of tricky things, and I probably wouldn't have killed off Carl either. I like Carl Meyer, so wouldn't have done that. Okay, with the narration, I think Brenda Strong did a great job with the narrations, but I would also have liked to have seen some other characters do some of the narration as well. Like, for instance, Rex Vandekamp narrated season 3, episode 16. Edie Britt narrated the episode right after her character died. So that was good. What else? So something else I might have done is I would have had so assuming I had killed off Mike in season three, I would have had him narrate some episodes in season three. That's as Susan struggles through them. And okay, assuming I had killed off Bree and Catherine as well, I would have had them narrate episodes as well. And also, I would have had Lynette narrate episodes if need be. And in season six, with some of the episodes on with some of the episodes involving Rex's illegitimate son, I would have had Rex narrate those episodes. I think that would have been pretty impactful. Let's see as we go on. And just a side note, I think we should have had some more episodes with Susan's dad, Addison Prudy. That would have been interesting as well. And okay, season one, season two, season three. I'm trying to think who would have been good for that. Oh, and I would have had Martha Huber narrate some episodes with Felicia Tillman in season seven. That would have been pretty awesome. Martha Huber. Who else? And Juanita Solis could have narrated some episodes in season seven with Gabby and Carlos, or involving Carlos, whatever the case. Noah Taylor could have narrated the episode with Zach Young in season seven. So what I'm saying is, we really could have had a lot of characters come back posthumously and do narrations. That would have been pretty cool. What else could I have changed about the plot as I'm trying to think here? Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4. Yeah, I think the most important thing I would do is with Orson's arc and Mike's arc, because Mike was a great character throughout, but I think it would have been very impactful and fulfilling if they had just gotten rid of him in Season 2 and had Orson be the big bad in Season 3 and 4. Also, I said this about my video on Dr. House, but I'm going to say it about my video here. I'm going to say this here in this video as well. I think I would have ended Desperate Housewives with season 7. So after Alejandro, Gabby's stepfather, gets struck down, and they hide him in a box, and the last scene they're still having the party, and Brie and Carlos make up, and the party goes on, and season 8 starts with them burying Alejandro, but I wouldn't have had season 8 at all. I would have just ended it with the last episode of season 7. That would have been the end. That's similar to what I said about House MD, where I would have had it end with just House driving his car into Cuddy's house and going to that beach in that wherever that country was, and just having it end there. I think that doing that would have been more fascinating. And of course, if I looked at many episodes in detail, there are more things I would have changed. So with Andrew, him being left in season 2, I would have made that progress into a bigger story. So maybe I would have had it come back in season 6, and he would have been all hateful and revenge and seeking revenge against Bree. That would have been quite a storyline. How about some more stuff involving that police officer guy who was friends with Noah Taylor and he hated Mike? More stuff involving maybe Bree's parents should have appeared again, especially Bree's stepmother, Eleanor Mason. That would have been nice. Yeah, so there's many things. Overall, Desperate Housewives was pretty good, but of course, it's always fun to think how things could be different if we change them around.